गुरुजी सदा सहाय। ओम नमः शिवाय गुरुजी सदा सहाय। ओम नमः शिवाय शिवजी सदा सहाय। ओम नमः शिवाय गुरुजी सदा सहाय। ओम नमः शिवाय शिवजी सदा सहाय। ओम नमः शिवाय गुरुजी सदा सहाय। ओम नमः शिवाय शिवजी सदा सहाय। ओम नमः शिवाय गुरुजी सदा सहाय। ओम नमः शिवाय शिवजी सदा सहाय। ओम नमः शिवाय गुरुजी सदा सहाय। ओम नमः शिवाय शिवजी सदा सहाय। ओम नमः Jai Guruji, Jai Sangat Ji. Today I'll be reading from the book Light of Divinity, a series of satsang by Mrs. Meera Kapoor. Meera meets Guruji and becomes his. When Mrs. Meera met Guruji, she had an acute problem in her spinal cord. The vertebrae had fused together, creating gaps within the cord. She felt as if a nerve was being pressed from the spine to the right leg, causing great pain. Doctors also noticed that her right leg had started weakening, losing muscle weight. Meera began wearing a belt to support her back, but even then she could not sit for more than 15 minutes at a stretch. During initial visits to Guruji, Meera would carry some pillows with her to sit for the entire satsang. But Guruji noticed her bringing the pillows and asked her not to do so. She tried to smuggle them in but was reprimanded sternly. So she sat down on the floor and could do more and could do so for hours. Meera met Guruji on 3rd April 1995 at Greater Kailash, New Delhi. Guruji asked her what she wanted cured. Apprised of the problem, he immediately said, "Let's do the operation." Meera was frightened. Guruji only took her to a room, placed a spoon on the affected body parts, and bent her neck with great force to the left and right. Meera felt agonizing pain. As she recovered, Guruji said he would treat her leg in Jalandhar. After Guruji's treatment, Meera's spinal cord problems vanished, but she still had pains in her joints. The fingers on her hands had swollen and the joints looked like big knots. Meera told Sadhguru about the problem one day. Guruji talked to her and began rubbing her hands. Meera, engrossed in talking with Guruji, did not notice his. She kept talking about what the problem in her hands were. Finally, Guruji interrupted her and told her to take a look at her hands. They were all that she could have wished for. The fingers had become lean and tapering. The joints were not paining, and all this had occurred without her noticing it. Guruji had once told Meera that he would not let her die, that he had given her 10 years more of life. He would keep saving her and would transfer her diseases. His words have proven true innumerably times. Removing a stone-filled gallbladder. Meera suffered from severe pain in the abdomen. A medical investigation revealed that Meera's gallbladder was packed with stones. The large ones were more than half an inch. Doctor started her medication but told her that surgery was only lasting solution. Guruji was in Jalandhar and advised Meera to go for the operation when he returned to Delhi. She told him could not bear the severe pain. Guruji put his hand on the spot and the pain ended. Meera waited for Guruji to return to Delhi and then got the surgery done. Her gallbladder was removed successfully. A host of health problems afflicted Meera. Her sugar level remained in constant flux, going up and down rhythmically. As a result, her left eye began to get affected and there was a significant vision loss. Meera went to Sri Gangaram Hospital and got an angiography of the eye done. It showed leakages. The doctor said that the eye should be operated upon within a week. It was Tuesday, and Meera, not wishing to take any step without Guruji's approval, told doctor she would ask her husband about the date. The attending doctor said it was her eye that mattered, not her husband's. But steadfast Meera went to Guruji. The Sadguru picked up one of the many garlands lying at his feet and gave it to her. When her eye was tested, the doctors were stunned. It had healed on its own accord. No tests were required. There was no question of surgery. Cancer patches on an X-ray disappear. Guruji's grace fell on Meera's husband too. There was a white patch inside his mouth. Doctors strongly suspected cancer but waited for a biopsy to confirm the diagnosis. The couple, meanwhile, went to the Satsang hospital where doctors said more or less the same thing. Meera hurried to Guruji with her problem and he said, Mauj karo, be carefree. Meera was surprised, but Guruji's words were meant by way of bestowing a blessing. The biopsy showed no patches in the mouth, yet the previous x-rays done at 2 a.m. the night before still showed patches. Doctors were confounded. The patches had disappeared overnight. Meera's joy knew no bounds. Guruji does everything immediately for her, says the Lady of Faith. A true consciousness, a return to consciousness. Meera's husband, Mr. Kapoor, who runs a wholesale garment business, had to travel to Punjab to collect some payments. He booked his to and fro ticket for travel to Shadbadi. But when he reached Jalandhar railway station with the money in hand, there was too much fog. He abandoned his plan to travel by train and decided to take a bus to Delhi. He phoned up his home and said he would reach by 10:30 p.m. The next phone call that Meera received was from Kashmir Gate police station at 1 a.m. at night. The policeman said that her husband has been found lying unconscious inside a bus that was going to the depot. Meera asked her brother in law, who was with her, to confirm the identity of the caller. The policeman said Mr. Kapoor was in no condition to talk to her and they were taking him to Hindu Rao Hospital. When the distressed family arrived at the hospital, they were disappointed at the care being provided. They decided to shift him to a private hospital. He still did not get consciousness. Meera approached Guruji, told her that nothing has happened to her husband and she should not worry. After after Sadhguru's statement, her husband tried to speak a few words at the hospital. The doctor tried to shake him up. When he regained consciousness fully, doctors told Meera to stay by her husband's side for 3 months continuously, as he could have temporary blackouts. Meera knew this was an impossible request to meet because she had to be at the garment shop they ran. Guruji, however, told her that she was not required to be on his side and that her husband was fully okay. So it was. He suffered no blackouts at all. It turned out that Kapoor had been befriended by a fellow passenger on the bus. The passenger had given him some biscuits and had some himself too. The next thing Kapoor knew was the hospital room. The family was disappointed they had lost a lot of money, but Guruji said their problem had gone and they should not worry. He would provide more. Meera says time has proved to be his magnificence and exceeded expectation and met more than their needs. Miracles of pilgrimage to Guruji. Kapoor, Meera, and her mother in law were going to Chandigarh to have Guruji's darshan. They reached at night and Guruji told them to return that same night. They left for Delhi at 2 at night, apprehensive because of the prevailing terrorism. Their anxiety increased as the Chandigarh Ambala stretch of the highway had been closed and they had to go through Panchakula. It was an airy night with not a soul being seen on the dark, unlit road that cut a swath through the fields. Meera prayed hard to Guruji for directions. Her mother-in-law was mildly caustic, wondering how Guruji could help them out in the middle of nowhere. Just then, two men emerged from out of the fields. They were on a motorcycle and had huge beards. Meera asked her husband to stop the car so that she could ask them the distance to the highway. They said it was 13 kilometers away. Meera protested that there was no signboard and it was such a lonely road. How could that highway be only 13 kilometers away? She asked the question again. To her and her mother in law's fear, the latter was suspecting these men to be terrorists. One of them went close to Meera and repeated in a deep voice that it was indeed 13 kilometers. Hardly they traveled more than 200 meters when they came across a signpost saying 13 kilometers. And exactly 13 kilometers later, the road came out in the front of Prince Hotel and they were on the highway. Who had come out of the fields in the dead night of to tell them the distance to the highway? Guruji goes to have a chat. Though through Guruji's help can be obvious at times, mostly he works in mysterious ways his wonders to perform. It's quite futile to cuddle your brains to understand his action or his words. The following experience shows that his outer actions are connected to working out his disciples' karma. At least that is what he should have had us understand for now. Who knows what he truly does? Guruji had asked Meera and Mrs. Subarwal to go to Bade Mandir, a distance of around 20 kilometers from Gurgaon, where they lived. They were doing so regularly. One evening, as they were traveling to the temple, they noticed Guruji's white Contessa car parked outside Bristol Hotel. They rushed over to him. Guruji was in affable mood and they pressed their advantage, talking to him for over half an hour at the spot. Then Guruji expressed a desire to have chaat, and the Sangat was taken to Manesar at Haldiram's, a popular eating joint. Guruji chose to rest on the lawns of Haldiram's. He lay down, with the Sangat making quite a fuss over him. They took over their handkerchiefs and fanned him. A chuni became his pillow. A doctor standing nearby, such as Guruji's part, came over to the group. He wanted to know if the group needed any medical help for the man lying on the ground. Did not seem okay. He was assured that everything was all right and turned away. Meanwhile, chaat was being bought. As it was being rapidly consumed, Guruji called Meera. She remembers being questioned quite closely in great detail about all her family members. Where were her daughters and son-in-law? Where were they expected? When are they expected back? She told Guruji that the couple were in Manali and would return soon. Soon the excursion was over and everybody went home happy. It was a month later that the reason for the Haldiram's visit became known. Meera's daughter and son-in-law had an accident while their new car was at red light. A truck rammed the vehicle from the rear. The car was smashed. Meera's daughter called her mother up and prayed that she communicated the mishap to Guruji. Meera rushed to the Empire State late at night. She found Guruji standing inside the hall as if waiting for her. She told him that an accident had occurred and Guruji told her where it had occurred, at a greater Kalish roundabout. She told him that her son-in-law was being taken to AIMS where Guruji gently reminded her that they were going to the Vasant Kanj based spinal cord injury center. As needed, her daughter had taken up to tell her at the last minute. A worried Mira was slow to realize that it was Guruji who was giving her all the details of the accident. The omnipotent master had let no hurt come to devotees' children. Though her son-in-law's face has swollen, he had no pains and there was no internal injury. Meera was told at the time of the accident, Guruji kept walking inside the room. She says he took her son-in-law's pain upon himself and he told her, I am with you, don't be afraid. Meera says that Guruji had foreseen the accident a month ago during the chat excursion and that by merely asking about her family, he had prevented certain disaster. Queer appearance at the garment shop. Guruji puzzled Meera by showing up at the shop in Karol Bagh. He came to take away their troubles or to give them something, but never did he come in the form they so loved. He took money to take away bad karma and showered prosperity on them. To Meera's never ending contentions, they would never recognize him. The Kapoors ran their wholesale business from the first floor shop at Carol Bagh. One morning, a stranger came in. He offered his visiting card and said that he wanted some change. Meera, who was sitting at the shop, said they were wholesale garment dealers and did not keep change. However, Mr. Kapoor decided to help out and send one of his employees to a nearby bank with rupees 6,400 check that has to be encashed. The man went inside the bank, the employees waited outside, and he kept waiting, returning only when the guard at the bank told him that he had never seen the man go in. The employee returned to the shop. When he gave the details, Meera felt exceedingly foolish that they had experienced business folk and have been cheated by a stranger. She told Guruji, who said their problems had been taken away. He even admitted that it was he who had taken away their money. Another time, a tall man whose head nearly touched the ceiling came and preened inside the shop. He was wearing a rough belt on his waist. Talking, taking him on the vagabond, Meera asked him to go away. Her employee said that he looked like Bholenath, the lord of the innocent, a little Lord Shiva. And Meera declined to give him 2 rupees. He, she repeated her command and the man go away. He did. He did. Then the entry and the exit of the stranger were unnoticed by the guard. In the evening, when Meera went to Guruji, she was embarrassed. The Sadguru told her that she had given him only 2 rupees when he came into her shop. It was Guruji's hukum that Meera sit at the shop. Though she felt she had not trained to do so, she followed his order. Later, Guruji went to Jalandhar. Meera would remember him a great deal and weep in front of his photograph. She also used to read the holy Shivapurna and tell her beads. Om Namah Shivaya, Shivji Sada Sahai, and Om Namah Shivaya, Guruji Sada Sahai. Whenever they would feel Guruji's rosy fragrance pervading the shop's interiors, the couple would get a change of clothes from their house nearby and leave for Jalandhar. During one such visit to Jalandhar, Guruji told her not to remember him so much and not to cry. He also advised her to do more of the Shiva Sahay mantra. Thanks to her constant remembrance, Guruji continued to visit her shop. Once a man dressed like an ascetic came to her shop. He said he wanted to give her a rosary or mala. When she put on her hands, he asked her to bow and put the mala on her neck. He also advised her to always keep the rosary with her. Later, when her grandson was born, Guruji paid them another visit in disguise. This time it was given a bangle for the newborn. He gave her a similar bangle to Meera. When Meera had started going to the shop, she had put on Guruji's photo there, but Guruji had not allowed it, she says, and she had to put it back at home. After 5 months of her going to the shop, he allowed her to put the photo in her shop. Meera says the shop started doing well and their earlier losses were made up. Guruji even helped Mr. Kapoor keep his word. One day, Kapoor promised certain man that he would pay him rupees 3 lakh due to him that day itself. Meera pointed out that the shop did not even have one-sixth of that amount in cash, but her husband said that he would have been promised two payments and they would make up the sum required. Kapoor went to collect the money. One man asked him to come back a week later. Another postponed the payment for a day. Moneyless, Kapoor petitioned Guruji while walking in front of the Karol Bagh Gurdwara. If he would keep his word, it would be a matter of disrespect for Guruji, not him. Firmly turning over the matter to Guruji, Kapoor returned to the shop. After some time, the shopkeeper above the shop sent them a customer. The man was from Jalandhar and needed certain things. All these were to be found in Kapoor's shop, and the customer happily made payments of these without being even bothering to check the raw materials he was buying. The sum easily covered the payment Kapoor had to make. That evening, when the Kapoors came for the Sangat, Guruji addressed Meera. What's the matter? Meera recalls him saying, your husband prays to me on the footpath. With rose garland, shop is fireproofed. Once Meera had gone with her sister-in-law to Guruji's place. He asked the sister-in-law to pick up a rose garland from the heap of flowers offered to him. He then instructed him to sanitize some water with the garland and sprinkle the holy water all over the shop. But the next day was Monday, and the sister-in-law was loath to open the shop for the express purpose of sprinkling some water on it. Meera told her that it was the best act as directed by Guruji rather than apply their own logic of his words to his words. A month later, a fire raged over Karol Bagh market. All the shops were burnt. Meera says the flames sighed to the shop below them. The blaze was so fierce that ceiling fans melted, but the devotee's garment shop was safe. The fire had seemingly recoiled from the near the garment shop as the wind started blowing in the opposite direction. The rose garland blessed by Guruji had protected their shop. Kapoor switched business on his advice. The Kapoor's business was not doing well. Mr. Kapoor had a plan to turn his fortune around. He wanted to import material from China, which would help him cut cost. Guruji was approached for approval. Guruji told him not to start right away and that he would tell them the right time. After 3 months, Guruji gave Meera prasad of cardamom seeds and misri, crystallized sugar lumps. He told her to eat it while sitting inside the shop. They were also permitted to start the new business after they told Guruji the name of the man in China with whom they were to do business. Guruji said he was a good man. They did business worth crores with this man sitting in China over the last 5 years, and till date, they have not yet met each other. There have been no losses either. Another time, Mr. Kapoor was in Chandni Chowk, one of the most congested areas in Delhi, with a great deal of money in his briefcase. He kept the briefcase on the top of another car while trying to enter his own vehicle with ease. Then he came home. At home, he discovered that he had not brought the briefcase with him. He was distressed since it contained a lot of money. He immediately went back through. He knew that the briefcase would have disappeared by now. To his amazement, the case was still on the top of the car that he had put it on. When in the evening he met Guruji, the master simply said, "Did you find the bag?" reaching out with grace. It was not just Meera who benefited from Guruji's care and protection. Her family did. So did a worker in a nearby shop. So did the head of the Department of Medicine. The Kapoors had gone to a nearby shop and they started doing satsang. Guruji tales so impressed the worker of the shop, a devotee of the mother, that he made up his mind to go to Guruji, who was then in Jalandhar. He took directions from Kapoor's and after shop hours set out. He reached Guruji, who wanted to know who had sent him. After he was told the same, Guruji hugged him for the reason best known to him. He sent him he then sent the man back to Delhi. Now this man led a troubled domestic life as his brothers fought among themselves. When he came back home, he told his wife that he felt as if all his problems would go away. And that was what happened. The brothers, squabbling over the property, did exactly as he suggested. A locker that contained the family jewelry was opened and the treasure divided among brothers. The shop worker found a pearl garland, a brief note attached to it. It should be given to the one who deserved it. The worker immediately thought of Guruji. He went one day to Jalandhar and sat at the Sangat, wondering whether to give the garland to Guruji or not. He was quite taken back when Guruji came before him and asked him why was he vacillating. Guruji then asked him to hand the garland over to him. Everyone had been impressed by Meera's quick recovery from her joint problems. The doctors treating her, head of the Department of Orthopedics in Safdarjung Hospital, has seen the recovery take place. She herself suffered from severe joint pains. She found it difficult to do her rounds. Meera suggested that she go to Guruji. She did and returned with his blessings. Soon Meera heard from her. The doctor was calling her to tell her that she had just taken a round of ward without feeling any pain. The doctor said she was still wondering whether it was she who had taken the round. As Meera turned to Guruji, she found that her entire family was getting blessed. Her sister-in-law was among the first one. She has a tenacious cold that would usually be accompanied by a migraine. Even her ears would give off water. Her hearing had already been damaged. Meera and she went to Guruji's together, and the cold and the migraine vanished. Her hearing improved. But at the same time, the sister in law's son Ankur was losing his vision. He was only 4 years old. The problem was put before Guruji and he gave his blessings. He asked Meera's sister in law to put honey in Ankur's eyes. The mother knew that applying honey to the eyes hurt a lot and was reluctant. She was prevailed upon and found that Ankur had felt no pain at all when the honey was applied. Guruji told them to get Ankur's eye tested. Sure enough, the eyesight has improved by leaps and bounds. One who grants God's darshan. Meera's brother had retired from the army, a devotee of Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa. He used to visit the saints only one hope in mind, that they grant him darshan of the Lord. After Meera had been to Guruji, she called him up and told him about Sadguru. He willingly came to the Sangat. Guruji immediately called him Mama, maternal uncle, and asked him to wish for something. The spiritual aspirant asked for Guruji's mehar or grace. Guruji again insisted that he ask for something, and the aspirant revealed his great desire to see God. Guruji merely said, okay. 3 days later, Meera's brother had a vision at home. His lifelong quest was realized. He had seen God. As a devotee's mere request, Guruji was able to grant him the darshan of the Almighty. Who then is he? One answer came to Meera's father himself. Meera reports that her father used to say, Guruji is not an ordinary guru or saint who gains control of some powers, siddhis, and then displays this to astonish the world and win over devotees. Guruji is a form of divine light. Mr. Kapoor too had Guruji's darshan. Kapoor was educated in Banaras, the city of Lord Shiva, saw in the dream that he was at Banaras Vishveshwaram temple. The door of the temple opened and he saw Guruji. His gaze fell to his feet, where he saw Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh. Guruji was told of the dream. He told Kapoor that the devotee had his darshan. Master of home affairs. Meera had been living all the time in a joint family in the Carol Bagh home. But Guruji insisted that the Kapoors move to Gurgaon. So on March 25th, 2003, she did. She wondered whether she should have a religious ceremony or sanctity the new house, but Guruji did away with all that. The Sadguru simply asked her to enter the house with his photograph first. Since then, his presence has been more than amply felt in the Kapoor's household. The very first time it happened was when Meera was complaining to Guruji in her mind that she was lonely. Through her maid servant had told Meera that his neighbor adjacent to her flat was interested in striking up a relationship. Meera did not make the first overture, but the neighbor came in one day and then began talking. The drawing room conversation soon focused on Guruji. Soon Meera had a friend. Guruji was in the know of what was happening. He immediately asked Meera on her arrival at the Sangat whether she had made Saheli, lady friend. Meera was amazed that Guruji knew what was happening at her home. And it was not just the drawing room that was visible to Guruji's omnipresent eye. Once Meera and her husband were having trivial early morning dispute. In the evening, Guruji phoned up the couple. He spoke to Kapoor asking him why he fought with Meera in the morning. Before a stunned Kapoor would frame a response, Guruji asked the same to Meera. Though it was a minor disagreement, Guruji has pounced on it, proving how intimate his knowledge of home affairs was. Always Meera felt the presence as if Guruji is reassuring her in her new home. Once she was sleeping when someone pressed her shoulder blades strongly. She turned and her head to look back. No one was there. Another time she was doing her puja when she felt someone touched her from behind and no one was there on the other shoulder. She wanted to dismiss it as imagination when she saw the curtain in her puja room move slightly, as if a breeze has passed through. She asked Guruji mentally whether it was him. Sure enough, during the Sangat, he told her not to worry, it was him. Snakes in the house. Meera was thrilled every time by Guruji's visitation, but she was terrified when she found snakes in her bathroom. It is highly improbable occurrence for the Kapoor home is located in the modern apartment complex. All the three bathrooms are tiled, and no one ever even reported sighting snakes in the area. Yet, day after day, as soon as Meera would go to her bath in the tub, the snakes would be there. Very small ones, nearly four of them every day. She was terrified. She would pray to Guruji before sleeping into her bathtub, but the snakes would still come, and she would stamp them out. She wanted to get the bathtub removed and asked her husband to do it. And there was a matter hung. So she mentioned the affair to Guruji, who said that she was a lucky person. She replied that she was very frightened person. Guruji then asked her what she wanted. She said she wanted to remove the bathtub and the snakes to disappear. With Guruji's permission, she ordered the removal of the bathtub. Those who came to remove the tub were cautioned that there were snakes inside the bathroom, they laughed it off. Mira kept checking to see whether the snakes were appearing as the tub was being removed, but the snakes were completely disappeared. The phenomena has not been satisfactorily explained to this day. How come there were snakes in a modern housing complex? Why only Mira to see them? Why did their appearance suggest? Where did they go? Only not Shiva knows. Jai Guruji, Jai Sangat ji.